And to our first conversation now, studies reveal the family businesses contribute significantly to global GDP and job creation. We see leading wealth management company Meristem Securities Limited has launched its family office, a subsidiary called Meristem Family Office. Let's find out how the family office works. Joining me now is CEO Meristem Family Office, as was Omar Kamal, a subsidiary of Meristem Securities Limited. She's joining me right here in the studio, and she's going to teach me and everyone how to maintain generational wealth. I feel like that must be a very difficult concept at this time with all the macroeconomic headwinds everyone's going through right now, cost of living crisis, we're seeing inflation at all-time highs, currency devaluation, yes, all of that. Yes. And I'm wondering how do you transfer generational wealth at a time like this? And first of all, but tell me, this is the first of its kind in Nigeria. Tell me why did Meristem decide to do this?
So thank you so much, Ladi, for having me here. It's such a pleasure, I tell you. Meristem has been working on the concept for 2 years now. And if you know Meristem a bit, the history of it, we've been in operation for over 2 decades. And we really believe the values that we talk about, that is, we are completely customer-centric. And our whole emphasis is on actually growing with the customer. So if you look at the history of Meristem, we started with stock broking, then we added wealth, we added registrar, we added trusts. So we are looking at different paths of creating wealth. That was our history. So 2 years ago, actually, I was talking to the MD, Wale Abengude. He's such a visionary. Actually, I was there to help the senior staff, the client-facing staff, talk to their business people, but about the family. And we said, actually, the thing that really is missing at Meristem is the bit that will help all this wealth created has to be then passed on smoothly. So we came up with the idea of having a family office service that's a multi-family office. So it shares it amongst the wealthy family. So if you're not Mr. Dangote and you can't afford to have your own, you come to us. But the purpose of it, and we complement the services of rest of Meristem. It's the first in the country, and we are the first in the country to have the family office services. But we really believe that that is what is missing in terms of actually helping Nigerians actually preserve their wealth, and then to be able to pass it on, but pass it on smoothly to the next generation. And why is this so important? Because if you look around the world, right, as you rightly pointed out, most of the money creation, job creation, wealth creation is in family business hands. I mean, look around you. There are very few people who are listed and go to the capital market, even in developed countries, right? I mean, if you think about some of the biggest family-owned companies, Walmart, do you think they are family-owned? But they are family-owned. So the controlling interest is a family. So actually, they move the needle the world over. And it's the same in Nigeria. So we have to move and catch up with the rest of the world. And that is my mission, to actually support Meristem and really helping the Nigerian economy do even better than it can, because we don't want a break between the first generation and the next.
And definitely, generational wealth preservation is a long-term thing, at this time. So tell me, what's the family office approach to, preserving, generational wealth?
So we always start with the matriarch or the patriarch of the family, right? And typically our conversations, before the family office started, was to do with the business. But now we go and talk to them and say, you've made all your money, right? Let's think about what's the purpose. What is the purpose behind making all this money? Yeah, and it's a conversation, and it's an encouragement to think about, why have I made all of this? And in thinking that, we include the family, and if it's the matriarch, the father is very important. If it's the patriarch, the wife is really important. And we make it a point to have the conversation with the two, because what we are trying to do is to avoid the break in the family relationship. Because if you look anywhere, I mean, and this is, the stories are strewn all over, right? That when the patriarch or matriarch dies and without a proper will, let's say, or a plan, or even a letter of wishes, then the children and all the beneficiaries start to have a fight, and it's public, and it's really damaging. It destroys the wealth, it destroys relationships. So our job is to actually have that conversation before, you know, the family kind of breaks up. And we want that there is no feud, so that, you know, people think about it, you know, that, you know, this money, the next generation have a responsibility. So it's not just enjoy the fruits of your dad.
Because growing up, you know,
yes.
there were some brands, you know, I knew growing up, and they were really good brands.
Yes.
The products were amazing, but once the owner died, it's most like the business actually died.
It does. And you know, the statistic is actually really stark. It's less than 30% of businesses that are running and successful today will make it to the next generation. Can you imagine? So that means 70% go bust. Why? Because things are not in place for the next gen. Now you may say to me, and it happens very often, that the next gen will say, I have no interest in the family's business because I have my own interests. I want to do something else. And this is the cause of some of the biggest fights between the parents and the children, because the children, you know, they are their own people. But there are very nice ways of having a conversation with everybody around, because what aligns the family is actually the family's values. So we again have a conversation and we facilitate discussions around what are the family's values. So you've made the money. How do you want to use the money? And you know, actually, if you go back and you go back enough, you'll be able to discover what is the motivation for people to actually make that money, and how do they want to pass it on. So then if the child is not interested in the family's business, there are other ways. They might have other ideas. So what you could do is to, you know, extract value from the existing business, but create a pot that you then use for the next generation, and also for good causes that you want. Again, your values in terms of how do you want to give back, and everybody, you know, likes to give back in some way or the other. But rather than buy that truck and give it 3 times because it gets lost every year, you think about a program of giving, and you think, and again, we are set up to support foundations. So we want to help next gen, but we also want to help the family leave a legacy.
Right.
So, yeah.
Talk to me now about, you know, which generation is at more risk of failing, you know, when it comes to transfer of wealth?
I don't think, you know, so the youngsters, the next gen, all the ones I work with, they all have their heads screwed on really straight. And their experiences are very different from their parents. Of course, the parents have sent them wherever they are to go and study, right? And so, of course, they are influenced by other things. But at the heart of it, if you have the right conversation, and I keep coming back to this, to have the right conversation with them, they understand, and they will support, and in their way they will contribute. So I don't think that there is a failure in the next generation at all. In fact, you look around, some of the best ideas, new ideas, they are bringing it, you know, the technology, the AI, in pharmaceuticals, chemicals. I mean, take any sector and you'll find the next gen are there, and they want to make a mark too. And it's, in fact, sometimes having a lot of wealth is a bit of a curse, because you don't have your own motivation to get up in the morning to do something. You know, if the bank of mom and dad is giving you every day, it's difficult. But then that's when you have the conversation about your responsibility. And so I think it behoves the parent to actually, you know, include and you know, encourage the youngsters.
Right.
And also, there are ways that you prepare the next gen for their responsibility. And I want to take a little time because it's really important. So yes, they get education and they're educated abroad, but they need to have experience either in your own sector, whatever sector you want, or in another sector, but just in a business setting. And long enough to be able to see what is good, what is not good, look at the world, do different things.
Right.
But also there are courses, and we are partnering with a few people, courses at places like INSEAD or like Columbia in New York and in Singapore. So, they can go to, courses, short courses that will help them, align a bit more, to take on responsibilities.
Right.
But also give a network of other next gens. So, you go to these courses, you meet other next gen, because you learn a lot from other people in the same situation. So we find that's been really useful as well.
Quite, and I definitely have heard it's hard, making money, but even harder, keeping it. Talk to me about how you tailor your services, to meet the unique needs of your clients.
Meristem prides itself in really being completely customer-centric. And, a lot of places I've been at, will say something about their mission and vision. For us, Meristem, we say when our customer smiles is when we smile. So, that's the only thing that drives. And we all have, we may say targets, but that's it. Our customers' well-being is our target. So we really focus on that. So how do we in family office translate that? How we do it is by we start with actually preparing dossiers for each of the families that we talk to. And by dossiers, I mean, it's not a secret dossier, but it's more about getting, what the public sentiment is, what the holdings are in a public way, where do they get involved with, what are the families involved in, what are the sort of things so we build a picture. Before we meet somebody, we have built a picture, even though they may be clients of ours, but we know them as, one part of it. Let's say they are stockbroking clients, or they are wealth management clients, or they are already clients of our registrar and trustees. So we build a profile first. So we understand, okay, who are the people who they work with. Then we talk to the relationship managers who are already dealing with them to get a feel for the person. Then when we go to the meeting, we put all that aside and we have that discussion. So it's a matter of building trust with that person, and hopefully the wife or husband is there. And we sometimes encourage them to have their children as well. But really to understand the motivation of that person. Why is it that they are spending that time with us? So what is important to you? So that's how we build up a picture. We tailor our services. And by that, I mean, we really have to understand, which is why this is not for, we are not opening it for hundreds of clients. My target, if I get 5 clients that I can understand and serve, I am very happy. And we are very happy.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And talking about, families you serve, what should a family look out for before, considering, a management company to manage that wealth and preserve it for them? What do they look out for?
Well, they should look at someone where they think that they will be best, their interests, not just the business interests, their family's interests will be best served. So what do I mean by that? It is that the brand is trustworthy, right? So I would say we are a very trustworthy brand, and having established ourselves as long as we have. And then we have, in the umbrella of Meristem, some of the best companies that can help you. So we have wealth management, we have registrars and probate, we have trust services, we have stockbroking, all of these services which can help you manage the money. And let's say we don't have some of the things that you need, like tax advice, for example. We are partnering with the best in the business, both here and globally. So the global one is going to be rolled out by next year, but we already have our sights on where we are going with that. And then we can partner. We are partnering with the key people in Nigeria already, where we can bring in the right people for the families. So our focus is completely on looking at the owner's wealth and the family that needs to benefit from it. And then we put in place, so what does the family office do? We will put in place the governance that the family needs. to be able to manage, navigate through this. And we will support the process, and that's our job. And we will make sure that the right partners are brought in, or the others from Meristem are brought in. So it's our job to make the transition smooth within the firm or with other partners.
Right.
And then to help the discussion between the members of the family and support the conversation. So that's how we do it. We tailor it to
Fantastic.
each person.
But before I let you go now, just talk to me in a few seconds. How do you transform the fate of a family that has been transferring and preserving poverty from generation to generation? Talk to me about that.
Well, I would interpret it as a poverty of values. So you have money, but you don't have the values. So that's what you're transferring. Because really, it's about, if you think about it, people who have a lot of wealth and they have made a lot of wealth, they can also be incredibly poor.
Right.
Because they haven't thought about their values. And they stray a bit. So, and that's where the problem occurs. So I think our job is to remind them to go back. And so I interpret your words as being the poverty of thought and action, which actually, at the end of the day, is probably more important than the real money.
Fantastic. So you don't go around preserving poverty. Thank you so much. It was great having you for this conversation. Umar Kimal,
anytime.
CEO, Meristem Family Office.
Thank you so much for having me.